Welcome everyone to June 2026 episode of Spiritual Questions Answered. And the topic for tonight is the path of light. So this topic came about because I get a lot of questions when I go and do my work, especially spiritual work with clients, and often the clients will ask, what lineage am I from? What religion am I from? What kind of a spiritual background am I from? And when I give them my answer, they are normally, very surprised because they've never heard of it. So normally I would tell people that, my background is Buddhism, but now in terms of religion or spirituality, it's not confined to Buddhism, and it's more about the path of light. Or I tell them I work for heaven, I work for light. And so people will normally ask me more questions about what do I mean by that. And so today I'm going to share with everyone this topic about the path of light. So it is also what we teach to students who are on our Infinity program. And you can say more or less what we teach here is about the path of light. So what exactly is the path of light? I think without being too obvious, the path of light is about light. And this is a spiritual topic. And when we say light, we're not talking about visible light. We're talking about spiritual light. All right. And when people say light, we mean like light in terms of goodness. All right. Like light versus dark. So what I'm going to present today, other than what we discovered is the path of light, I'm going to try and share with you all the so-called evidence that we have that it is indeed the path of light. Now, of course, there will be other people talking about their path of light. I'm sure we'll have some things in common. All right, but here I'm going to share with you all what we discovered. I think it's really good news for the world. And I feel very blessed and very honored to have kind of stumbled onto it. But I wouldn't say that the path of light has never been there. Now, the path of light has always been there. And I think what we have been able to do here at CordyKet is that we have a better understanding of the path of light than ever before. So a little bit background about the kind of work that we do. So Cordelia and I, we are known as CordyKet. I'm Kat. And we do a lot of spiritual healing work. And our spiritual healing work will involve trying to feel and improve the energy systems in people. All right, so we are not really, we are energy healers. All right, we specialize in spiritual healing, and we dive and specialize into energy more than other people, I would say. All right, more than most people. Now, this is what we discovered. Okay. Now, one of the very first things that we discovered and that we teach people, all right, is about the light system that is in people. Okay. Now, most people, most of the common knowledge are already out there. So when I'm talking about light system, actually, most people know it as the chakra system. All right. So the chakra system is something that is pretty well known by people. It's been discovered by the Indians. All right, there's a lot of literature about it, and people are always talking about chakras. Now, so the common knowledge about chakras is like this. So let's say this is a person sitting cross-legged. Okay, didn't draw this very well. Alright, so this is roughly a person who's seated cross-legged, roughly the silhouette, yeah? And it's well known that people have 7 major chakras, okay? 7 major chakras. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, there are 7 major chakras. So for us, we know what we found was most people have 7 major chakras, but not all. But suffice to say, alright, the general knowledge is people are supposed to have 7 major chakras. Alright, and most of the knowledge will talk about the chakras, what the chakras represent, what it look like. It's supposed to have petals, how many petals, and so on. Colors, maybe sounds associated with it, body parts associated with it, how we live our life, how it may affect the chakras, and so on. Now, through this body of knowledge, general body of knowledge about chakras, we discovered something further. Alright, so one of the things that we realized was the chakras actually are the one that generate the aura, especially the prana aura. Alright, so the chakras, the energy of the chakras are supposed to be called prana. That's what the Indians call it. So the chakras will generate the aura. Now, what we discovered, or specifically Cordelia discovered very early in her spiritual journey, was that the chakras actually is generated by something. So the aura, alright, what we call the light aura, we call it the light aura because some people see it as invisible light. So the light aura is generated by the chakras. Alright, and chakras is sort of some sort of light too. It's made of some sort of light energies. The Indians call it prana, and we call it light. Alright, we call it light. It's a form of invisible light. We discovered that the chakras actually are generated by a light that sits in people's heart. Alright, and we call this light the pure light of goodness. There is a light that sits in the heart here, the physical heart. Alright, I'm very clear. I'm not talking about the emotional heart. And people talk about heart, they're talking about emotional heart or heart chakra. No, I'm talking to the physical heart, the one that goes book. Alright, so in our physical heart, there is an invisible light. And this light is pure and is of goodness. And it generates the chakras, and the chakras in turn generates the aura, the light aura. And they're all made of the same stuff, same energy that we call prana, or to us, we also consider it light because many people experience it as invisible light. Not visible light, invisible light. So when you know people who are clairvoyant, they sometimes can see some light around people. What they're seeing is this light aura. It's the aura of the prana, and it's generated by the chakras. Now, so as healers, we've come to realize this. And so one of the shortcuts that we do in energy healing is that when we want to heal people's chakras, all we need to do is heal this light, this pure light of goodness, and all the chakras get healed. It is a shortcut. Alright? So, and this is what we've been teaching people to do it yourself, DIY, when we share to people about our light meditation. Alright, we teach light meditation, we conduct the class every month, and hopefully one of these days, I'll probably try to do a video recording, and so that everyone can access the light meditation video on our YouTube. So we have verified this over countless cases, alright, that when we discover people whose chakras are weak, alright, now the traditional way, if you go to any other healer, energy healer, they will be healing all the single chakras, and it's like you need to do 7, alright. But for us, we heal this one point. This one point will heal the chakras, and the chakras will heal the aura. We don't have to heal anything separately. We just do everything here. And this was a very big discovery for us because we have never heard of anyone else talking about this. Alright? Now, what does this have to do with the path of light? Now, firstly, there is this light, and we discovered that this light that people talk about is related to the invisible light that people experience when they do meditation. All right. So there are many traditions of meditation, and of course, one of the more famous groups that do meditation are the Buddhists. And the Buddhists have a lot of literature that talks about the light that they experience during meditation. And we discovered, all right, that the light that they experience in meditation is actually this light. So when the people meditate enough, this light will automatically be brighter, and then they can experience it during the meditation. And for the Buddhists, especially when they do meditations on loving kindness, you all know loving kindness meditation. So not just the normal meditation, especially when they go and do meditation on compassion and loving kindness, and that they experience more of this light, and it's well documented in Buddhist literature, all right, and those who meditate. So we discovered that this light, all right, it responds to meditation. Now, the next thing that we discovered about this light, I think has to do with the fact that we are very blessed to be based here in Malaysia. I'm Malaysian, I'm born in Malaysia, I live in Malaysia. And Malaysia is a multi-racial, multi-faith country. That means there are different religions here. Right? So I come from a background of Buddhism, and there are Christians here, there are Muslims here, there are Hindus here. There are four main religions here in Malaysia. And well, there's also Taoism, if you consider Taoism, right? Another major religion. And this is what we realized. So when I went on my spiritual journey, all right, so my background was Buddhist. I went on a spiritual journey, and I didn't constrain myself just to Buddhism. All right, now I think that if I were to be born in maybe Europe or the US, whereby the predominant faith is Christianity, that would be it. Yeah, so just explore Christianity, and not much of everything else. But here in Malaysia, there's really a huge variety, and the access is much more accessible. Okay, so I explored into the different religions, and I eventually discovered something. Now, most of the religions will have their own mantras and prayers. Okay, those mantras and prayers of the various religions that I explored, and when I chant, I discovered that when I chant or do the prayers, the light, our so-called light anatomy. So I consider the chakras, the aura, and this pure light of goodness here in our heart, part of the light anatomy, or the chakra system, or the prana system, however you want to call it. So all these generate the energy of light. People see it as light. Now, what I discovered was when I do prayers and mantras of the different religions, my light will respond. And I was able to discover it after doing years, mind you, doing years of light meditation, training myself to be sensitive to this light, to the chakras that are on me and they are on others. And now I can easily verify, and I'm sharing with people now, those who are learning, those of you who come to like our podcast, our talks, right, that when we chant mantras and prayers of the different religions, as long as they are religions and mantras of light, prayers of light, then our light system will light up. It will literally light up. There will be a response, and it will even grow. The aura will grow. The aura will enlarge. It will become bigger. The light will have a response. The chakras will have a response. The aura will get brighter. And I was like, wow, we are onto something. And then this, if we think about it deeper, it has very, very clear implications for the spiritual and religious landscape here on earth. Now, I didn't just stop there. All right, for those who are learning from me, like in Hiniti, know that we do further investigations onto the chakras, for example. All right, we do further studies on the chakras, and we discover this one thing. Yeah, so this light, okay, is essentially this pure light of goodness. All right, so it's pure, it's of light, it's of goodness. So one thing, it responds to mantras and prayers of light. Now, if you're not very sure about this, you can go and refer to one of the earlier podcasts that I've done, which is the exact same title, Mantras and Prayers of Light. So when we are chanting or doing prayers of light, chanting mantras or doing prayers of light, our light will respond. Now, the next thing that we discover, so this light, prana, is a pure light of goodness. And the key point here is goodness. Now, what we discover is when we are good, when we are good people, when we act in accordance to goodness, our light too will light up. And this one is harder to document. It's kind of harder to document, to verify. Because if you're talking about mantras and prayers of light, you know, you can get someone to chant the mantra or prayer of light, and then you try to sense or you try to measure this light. And it, for those who are attuned to it, all right, especially when you train to do light meditation, you will be able to sense that the light gets stronger and stronger. Now, the thing that people don't quite realize is when we are actually good. Now, how do we define good? So, I want to be very clear. So, we define good through values, good values. You know, are you a person who's capable of, right, love, kindness, patience, compassion, truth, and so on, right? These are values that are associated with a person who is good, right? So different type of values, and you can make a whole long list. Now, what we discovered is when people are good, their light strengthens automatically. It's harder to measure, but it is measurable. And recently, one of the ways that I noticed this, so as I train myself to be sensitive to light, yeah. This is what I noticed. Normally, in times of disasters, all right, in times of disasters, now when there's disaster, it's terrible, yeah, it's terrible. You can maybe a earthquake, a tsunami, all right, and there are deaths, there's destruction, and you know, there's a lot of gloom, a lot of maybe some people will be despaired, especially at the point of destruction or at the point of the disaster, right, at the time. And normally, if you observe, after the disaster strike, there will be an upswell of goodness from people on the ground who will rush in to help. And you will read about it in the news, in articles. Nowadays, you will see videos, you will see shorts, right, or TikToks. You know, when there's disaster, and if you're into that kind of videos and footage, you will see, you know, people going to help when when disaster strikes. And The most recent one of our time currently that I read is about the um, Ebola pandemic in Congo. Are you aware of the Ebola pandemic in Congo? So there is a new Ebola strain that's happening in part of Congo. All right, and the thing is, this normally Ebola, the health authorities will clamp down on it very fast because it's a very deadly disease. Yeah, but we are at this point in time in the world whereby US have closed down their UN aid, all right, have stopped giving aid for all these health purposes. At least that's what the Trump administration decided to do. Yeah, and US also pulled back a lot of funding from the WHO, World Health Organization. So international organizations and charities also don't have as much funds. There's also a war ongoing. So what happened is this affected the health scene in Congo, and the Ebola new strain was allowed to, it went spreading for weeks before before the government, before the health officials discovered it, and before the UN, WHO, and our so-called more advanced countries discovered it. And so now the Ebola pandemic is running like crazy, is killing people. A lot of people are getting hospitalized. And recently, I read an article about it, and it was amazing. I was reading an article by the New York Times. So New York Times have a correspondent there, and have a correspondent there that's covering the Ebola pandemic, and he was talking about, wow, it's amazing, yeah. The situation is actually quite bad. They don't have enough equipment. They don't have enough, those protective overalls, and no one is really. There's not enough funding to work on vaccine and stuff like that. And everywhere is understaffed, undermanned. But guess what? He's reporting of normal people in the areas who are affected. He said, there are so many volunteers who are turning up, offering themselves at the risk of getting Ebola, who were 1 day ago, 1 week ago, they were miners. In Congo, there are a lot of miners who are very poor. They go and dig up stuff for very poor pay. They could be miners, farmers, whatever, and they drop everything and they go and volunteer to help out with the Ebola pandemic. And this is what I'm talking about, yeah. In such times of disaster, many people will choose to be good out of purity of goodness of heart. And then, to me, when I read such articles, I can even sense, I can feel through the author, the connection to these people, the light that is present in all these people who make the choice to help. And I've recognized this because every now and then when I read about all these disasters, one of the previous one was like in Spain when I can't remember, something happened, and yeah, a lot of locals, they did the same, and I could literally feel like light coming from the article, but it's not like coming from the article per se, but I could feel the light from those people that the author was talking about. And yes, this is something I managed to verify, that when we act out of goodness, our light will light up automatically. And this is, I think, not common knowledge. And so in Infinity, I teach people that our chakras will also level up. Our chakras will respond, will vibrate at a higher frequency, will grow when we become better people in accordance to values that are of light, in accordance to good values. And this is, I believe, not something that's very common knowledge. Right? There are a lot of people who talk about, for example, activating the Kundalini, and you need to do certain practices and everything. but nobody talks about being a better person. And this was something that we discovered. Being a better person, and then mantras and prayers of light. And remember, I was talking about the light that the Buddhists experience, meditators will experience in the meditation. And it normally tends to happen when the Buddhists do meditations on loving kindness and compassion. Buddhists like to do that. All right, other than the mindfulness of breath, they will move on to loving kindness and meditate on compassion and stuff like that. And they tend to experience the light. Because again, when they meditate on being good, the light responds. The light responds, and then some people will be able to sense it, see it, or feel it. And then here, all right, I'm going to move on and talk about what exactly is the path of light. So what we have discovered through our work on energy, on chakras, is that we have something, an energy system that is of light, and it responds to what we consider as light, as goodness, right? Light versus dark as goodness. And it responds to mantras and prayers of light as in, light versus dark, religions kind of thing. So, now, what is very interesting is this. When I say mantras and prayers of light, there are mantras and prayers of different religions. Different religions. And of course, if one were to be confined to a particular religion or particular practice, we would have preference, we would have a bias, right? That our religion, our way is the only way, or is the correct way, or the best way. So different people will put it across differently. But our experience, and that we've gone on to show and to teach people that it's not necessarily true that there's only one way. So what I would like to present to everyone is the path of light as we see it. Now, what I see as the path of light is like climbing a mountain. All right? At the top of the mountain, the destination, at the peak, is light. Not only light, but what we like to call the source of light. All right, at the highest level. Now, what people call religions are trying to reach their God or their endpoint in their cultivation, be it heaven, nirvana, moksha. All right, they have an endpoint. Now, to me, their endpoint is of light or towards this source of light, and each religion may have its own way up. Now, it could be on this side of the mountain, on the other side of the mountain. It doesn't matter. And so there are well-traveled paths, there are less traveled paths, or they may be, for an individual who wants to reach the top, who wants to reach the source of light, to experience light at the highest level, one can choose any of the well-traveled paths, or one can carve out a path of yourself And as long as you know the direction to go, you reach the peak. And if we are using this analogy of the mountain, the path of light, all right, is not this path or this path or this path or any other path. The path of light, if we were to summarize based on this, it's just this. The path of light is just up. Correct? If you have a mountain, if you know which direction is up and you keep on going, you will get to the peak, to the top of the mountain. Correct? Now the question is, what then is analogous to this direction up of this mountain analogy that we have? And I look at the evidence that we have discovered. This is the evidence that we discovered. And to me, the path of light that is going up, this analogy of the mountain is very simple. Based on what we experience here, the main point in the path of light one is goodness. If you are good, the better you are, the more good you are, you reach higher and higher in light until you reach the very peak. And if you're talking about this path, and this path can be, let's call it, it can be well traveled paths, and usually established paths. They will be of the traditional religion. So it can be religion A, it can be, it can be religion B, it can be religion C, for example. Now, all the religions teach us goodness, isn't it? Yes? And if we take a look at all the religions, you will notice that those practitioners of those religions who are really good people, they tend to have some kind of light abilities, or some people can see that their aura is very strong. And yeah, we also notice one thing, from these chakras, those people who study chakras, yes, we'll know that the chakras are also associated with some spiritual or psychic abilities. Correct? Have you noticed there's some correlation that people who are very spiritual or very good or religious, depending on whichever religion or spiritual practice they are, they tend to have some form of spiritual or psychic abilities. Yes, there is some correlation. Yeah, if you observe, there is some correlation, and it does not surprise us. So for us, what we discover is when people are good, their chakras will level up. And when their chakras level up, the chakras actually power the spiritual abilities, the spiritual or psychic abilities. And all this have to do with just goodness. It has more to do with goodness than energy power-ups. Now, what do I mean by energy power-ups? Those of you who are into energy healing and all this, many energy healing masters and gurus, they will provide this service of activation, chakra activation, energy activation, whereby the master or teacher or the guru will be the one to send some energy, prana or light to you, and then after that, the person will have some ability to do the energy healing and so on, especially in energy healing modalities. This is quite common in some number of energy healing modalities. But if you actually pay attention, more often than not, or usually the vast majority of cases, is this effect is only temporary. The master can give you the energy, but the energy does not belong to you because you have not earned it. And you have not earned it unless you are good enough. Good by the definition of values. And I don't know how many people realize it, but all the masters, the spiritual people, you will notice they actually have to become better people, and then they start to get these abilities. But some people realize it and some people don't. So now, again, back to the path of goodness. So path of light. The key point here is goodness. Then the question that begs is, how do you define goodness? And in what way is you can be better in terms of goodness? And then comes the second point, which is very linked to goodness. So let's talk about goodness now. When we talk about goodness, one of the most famous values that people talk about is love. Yes, love is, without question, a very recognizable value of goodness. A good value. A person who's loving is a good person. Yes. My question to you is, if person A is loving and person B is also loving, how do we determine who is more loving? And what is the highest form of love? If I were to ask what is the highest form of love, most people will say that unconditional love. Correct? Unconditional love. And what exactly is unconditional love? It means love with no conditions, with no attachments. Someone will just be loving no matter what. So the highest love is unconditional love. So you can say, and when you extrapolate this to other values, all right, so kindness, highest level of kindness would be unconditional kindness. The person is kind no matter what. All right, so, and when we take a look at the practice of some of the traditional religions, the answer lies there. The other component of the path of light is no conditions, non-conditional, or rather non-attachment. If you're talking about love, love with zero attachments, zero condition is the highest love. All right, so we don't just define goodness, we give a direction to goodness. So goodness can be here or there, but a goodness that goes up and up is goodness that is less and less attached, less and less conditional. Does it make sense? And this is what I call exactly the path of light. It is just based on mainly these two things. Now, as far as we know, as far as humans, from a human kind of understanding, and the only thing that is not accounted for what we have known over here will be stuff like mantras and prayers of light. Now, what are exactly mantras and prayers of light? Well, mantras and prayers of light serve to tell us that, look, there's religion A, religion B, religion C. And religion A, religion B, religion C have their practices, their mantras and prayers, which can get people to the peak. Can strengthen the light, can point the direction to the peak. Because these mantras and prayers of light, now if you were to talk about religion, we understand that a lot of these mantras and prayers of light, they come from a heavenly or divine source. Yes? Heavenly and divine source. And to simplify it, it would have to come from the source of light. These practices of light, mantras and prayers of light or practices of light, they actually come from this source, such that if they come from this source, doesn't matter which religion you are, if they come from this source of light, it will have a response on our light system. And we know it's a good source because when we are good people, we act in accordance to good values, and when we are good and when we are not attached, when we are less conditional in the way we are as a person, our light responds. So we know that these mantras and prayers of light and that these religions all come from a good source. Do you get what I mean? Right? It doesn't matter whether you like the religion or not, and we do have preferences about religions and the way we practice, and we may have preferences and prejudices. There are religions that we don't like for whatever reason that we may have. But if you actually know that these other religions, when you do their prayers, it also strengthens your light, and you know your same light is strengthened by goodness, you know all these actually come from a good source. It is from the source of light, because everything that is related to light, related to goodness, it all gets us higher and higher in light. And finally, if we can finish the journey, if we can reach the highest level of the journey, we will reach the peak. And maybe we get to experience the source of light, the source where all these things come from. So, for me, the most fulfilling part of my journey and the work that I do is knowing this. And knowing this, I am very assured and I feel very good, because before I started this spiritual journey, I asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of questions in my mind. I looked at the state of the world, and I was very troubled because I truly believe that many religions are good. There may be some parts of the religion whereby people don't like, and I may not like certain parts of the religion, but I largely believe that many of these religions are good. And the sad thing is, there is a lot of fighting, even war, because of religion, because of beliefs. And usually it's over trivial things. And what I find is that maybe we have lost the sight of what exactly is the path of light. What exactly will get us up there in light, in goodness. And this answer, it seems so simple and elegant. All the religions teaches us to be good. And if you take the trouble, like what Cordelia and I did, to read the energy, to train, to sense our light, you will also discover that when we are good, our light will strengthen. And the less attached, the less conditional we are, our light will strengthen. And it doesn't matter which faith you want to follow, or you want to follow all faiths, or you don't want to follow all these faiths. Now, you can don't choose any of the religious path, but if you know the direction up, and which is just being a good person, being non-conditional, less attached, you will go up this path. And we have met so many people who are not religious, who are not spiritual, and they're just good people, and their light is strong. Their lights are strong. And for those who come to us, especially learning in Haiti, we always point out this great person. She just passed away. Her name is Jane Goodall. She's not a religious person. She has no real spiritual practice or religious practice, but she is all about goodness. And I always tell people, my students and whoever have a chance, I share my experience of Jane Goodall. Her energy, her presence. The first time I felt her, I was left crying uncontrollably. I was crying uncontrollably in the auditorium. When she walked past the aisle, I was just crying, and I had no idea why, and I wasn't a fan. And it really hit me. You know, her light was so strong, and there was so much love there that it affected me. Actually, I don't consider myself very sensitive. You know, I train and I teach a lot of students, and they are way more sensitive than I am, but I could feel it. And because of all these experiences, we've come to realize that the path of light is really about goodness and being non-attached and less conditional. And if you have a religion, you can do the religious way, and especially the prayers and the mantras, and they teach us to be good. My advice would be this. When you're in your religion, focus on this. Whichever practice, spiritual practice or religious path that you are on, I hope that after hearing this tonight, you will focus on the real path of light, which is just about being a good person, a better person with less conditions, with less attachment. And if you have prayers and mantras of light that you would like to do, by all means do. But anything within your practice, within your life, that asks you to hate, to be unforgiving, to be intolerant, to be unkind, that is you going down and down and down and down. That is not going up and up the path of light. So I hope that I have managed to illuminate this path for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can type it on the chat, or you can switch on your mic to ask me questions, but please do so one by one. So Ed is asking how to know a chakra is blocked and need to be healed. That's a very good question. So if you are not a person who can feel your chakra, you may need to go and see an energy healer. One of the easiest way to tell is with your heart chakra. Now, if your heart chakra is blocked, typically you will not have people whose heart chakras are blocked. They have less emotions, especially less kindness, less compassion, and they are more hard as a person. All right, that's the easiest to tell for the heart chakra. Ed is asking, besides good values, does degrees of one's health affect the power of light? Coral, the answer you can be sickly and still be a good person. No. The power of light is not dependent on anything else. Have nothing to do with health. Has nothing to do with physicality. It's all about goodness. And whether are you a very conditional person or a person with a lot of attachments. The more you let go of your conditions and attachments, and the better a person you are, you will just go up. And so you can be literally dying, but your light will be bright and radiating. Okay? And it has nothing to do with religion. That means you can keep on going up this path without the religion. But from the source of light has made available to the different religions the mantras and the prayers that will help people go up the path. And everything comes together because once you're able to sense the light, you will know all these are true. And for us, so we always tell people, at least in the way we do things, we rely on the ability to detect and sense this light. And for the very same reasons, we will know when the religions do not come from the same source of light. So such that their prayers or their mantras or the rituals, when done that way, it does not strengthen our light. But those that come from the source of light, the mantras and the prayers, will lift us up, our light will become brighter. And without those mantras and prayers, all we need to do is just be a good person and in the most unconditional way possible, in the least attached way possible, and our light will get stronger and stronger. Ed is asking the source of light, is it referred to God, home? So the source of light have a different name. Some people will call it God. You can call it home. But I think it's very important for us to realize that it is of light. And it is a source of light. The source of light to the different religions. Because now when we use the term God, God is a very controversial term. Even politically charged, religiously and spiritually charged. And some people will think God refers only to the Christian God, right? Or God, you use it in Hindu sense, is referred to all kinds of deities, and some people will say those Hindu deities are not of light. But to us, we do not measure that way. We learn to sense this light, the light that is of goodness, the pure light of goodness that's in us, and we learn to sense the light that are in the mantras and prayers of the different religions. And if they are all of light, they all have the same effect on us, and we feel better and better. Okay, and so you can say it's a different name for God, but God in the religions, in each of the religion, is a very clearly defined and limited understanding. Yeah, it's defined according to the religious understanding, and each religion have the way of seeing who and what their higher power is like. But for us, beyond what the religions have of the idea of their God or deity or higher power, at the very top, the source of light, the source of it all, is pure love, unconditional kindness, ever patient, really all good. Whereas if some of the religions, their higher powers and God and deities and so on, they still have, right? They may still have anger and talk about fear and punishment. But what we understand at the very highest peak, and we have experienced it, and we hope to invite you all to experience it. We try to do meditations that to invoke the presence of the source of light. We call it the Light on Earth meditation. The next one in this year should be August 12th. All right, those of you can check on our groups. It's on August 12th. Yeah, you can experience it for yourself. It's just all goodness and purity and light and no fear, anger, that kind of thing. Yeah. Ed is asking again, the path of light is the path of enlightenment, as in goodness, non-conditional love, non-attachment are there. Yes, you can say so. Right? So some people will say when you reach the top, you are enlightened. And yeah, can you imagine? So now I will put down this non-attachment, yeah? And if you talk about, let's say, the path of the religion Buddhism. So in the religion Buddhism, there's the path of Buddhism is very heavy on compassion, loving kindness, and the most central part in Buddhism is non-attachment. And the idea in Buddhism is to let go of attachments, let go everything, until you reach the very highest level, which in Buddhism is nirvana or emptiness. So you can say, if you keep on letting go your attachments, so by the time you let go everything, when you reach the top, if you really let go of everything, what do you have left? You have nothing. You're empty, right? And if you talk about love at the very lowest, love is a very conditional love. It has all kinds of attachments. I will only love you if you give me money, if you're nice to me, that kind of thing. But at the highest level of love is unconditional. There's no more conditions. The only condition is that it is just love, right? If love lets go the attachment, the final attachment, the final condition that it is love, it has love essence, love qualities. If it even lets go of that condition, that attachment, it's nothing. It becomes emptiness, correct? So Ed again is asking, one's fear could affect the light quality. Yes, because fear is not goodness, isn't it? Yeah, so those values, qualities that are of goodness will take us up or take us higher in the path of light. Coral is saying or asking, Cat, conversely, if cultivating contrary to goodness, I've noticed that people do get physically ill. The prana system affected. All right, so now the point I was trying to make is to go up the path or to become stronger in light, higher in light, it has nothing to do with physicality. Coral is saying, but on the opposite end, if you cultivate more of the other direction, so if this upward is of light, downwards, that means more badness. So upwards is goodness, downwards is badness. Some people will have more and more, can have their health affected, physical health affected even. That can be true, but normally what we see is, so normally what I tell people is this: the light is an indication of physical and mental health. All right, the light affects physical and mental health. When the light is strong, people are normally mentally and emotionally positive. When the light is strong, people are mentally and emotionally positive. When the light is weak, people are normally mentally and emotionally negative. Right? Emotionally negative and mentally negative, that is a known cause for physical ailments. Doctors know, for example, if you get very stressed, if you're depressed, it will affect your physical body. So yes, okay. And add again, no way the source of light to be corrupted, right? As I understand, no. All right, the source of light is the source of light is pure, and we are very clear it is of light, and it's a very, very powerful source. Those people who have joined us in our Light on Earth meditation and experienced it, yeah, I think they will know what it's like. All right, and Ed says, thanks, Kat. Welcome. So any more questions before we end tonight? Coral says, thank you. All right, if there are no more questions, I thank everyone for joining me. If you are interested, we do have some practices which enhances the light, so that we teach regularly: Unity Qigong, light meditation, and non-attachment meditation. So our light meditation helps people strengthen the light, and it also relies on strengthening our values. And non-attachment meditation teaches people to let go of our attachments. And this is how we help people to move up or move along further down the road in the path of light. So if you're interested, I hope to see you in our online events or online groups, or you can check out our YouTube channel. We have some meditations there, meditations and Qigong there. Coral is saying, got to go to another meeting. Be well. Take care, everyone. Blessings. All right. So thank you, everyone. If you feel this has benefited you and you would like to support us, do consider making a donation. How to make a donation will be in our groups. If you can't afford it, it's also fine. This is free. And the recording will be made available next month. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, good night, and goodbye.